This is Akili, Africa rising from within.
I think in Africa, we can't afford good leaders.
Yeah, I disagree.
Can we though?
Yes.
Then why can't poor people, I mean financially broke people, make it further? And then those who are going to win in the campaign are buying the people for peanuts. I think it was P.L. or Lumumba who said that the dilemma of African governance is that the idiots with the money, how do you put it? That the idiots with the money have no idea, and those with the ideas have no money. But the real idiot is that the people vote for the man with the money but no. That's what I'm saying. Can we really afford good leadership?
We can, but there are a lot of factors at play. Many people who will go for that cheap money have given up on the system. They don't believe their vote matters. They don't believe it will make a difference. So the transactional thing, what you give me now, that's all that matters. They don't believe that what this will make a difference. Will my life change? Will it happen? They don't believe. So they'll go, whoever's ready to give that money, if it's my 2K, yes, I go and get my small drink, end of story. I buy my bar of soap, end of story. That's what somebody believes that the whole election is about. For me, an election should be about setting a direction of the country, right? Something which is going to be transformative. It's going to really make changes. That is my approach to it. And an election can do that. But I need to convince the voter that their vote matters. And we need to create an environment where that vote can make a difference.
So you've told your people to write your name on the ballot. Isn't that tantamount to vandalism?
No. The vote will be read as a spoiled vote. But the intent will be understood.
That is the real protest vote.
The intent will be understood. And in this particular case, is that by writing my name or showing support towards my candidature or lack of candidature, it will be showing those that I do have support. The issue which I'm talking about should not be treated as something which is just in the air. There's something more to it. And if you're wise, you look at that more thing and you try to see how we can bridge it so that we don't if I'm irrelevant, people have no difference. People have no impact. If there's an impact, then you know that there's something there. So
let us say, like you postulated, that if the average of spoiled votes in the previous elections has been 3%, and then this particular election comes out and it is 10%, so we should assume that the other 7% is on account of Guinea. That would mean that, you have a certain sway. What would you use that for? What would you do with that? Now that, it would be evident that, this man has sway.
If the figures come as the way you put it, it will mean I have much more sway than is assumed. Because it is not as easy to get somebody to go out and to do a negative. It was easier to get out people to go and vote for me than to get them out to go and write my name. There will be many who will not bother getting out of bed.
Yeah. mean, voter apathy is a real
Yes, what happened is a real thing. You know, something which people are jumping on because of what had been building over time. So they were ready to jump in. When I'm not on the ballot, I expect the turnout will not be as high as it could have been if I was on the ballot in the areas where I have support. So, in measuring it or quantifying it, you must look at all these factors in place. And ultimately, we need a higher turnout to be able to change things. Because the higher turnout is more people involved in the process, and also the expectations. You said generally the accountability. The less people, the less accountability.
In your sensing, what do you think this election stands on? Why is it very important?
This election is important, can be very important, but there's a lot of apathy with respect.
And because who cares?
Yes. There's that attitude, who cares? What difference will it make? We have to believe it makes a difference. We have to get people to know that you can make a difference. So we need a more proactive team, a more proactive generation. I don't also want this generational jumping in where it is to collapse a system. I'm always a believer in how do you forge a better way forward. And that is normally
Half a lot is better than now.
better, well crafted than reacting to something and going for the clash. When you go for the clash, it is the better prepared or the more brutal who prevails. When you go for a well organized process, it is the better planning, the well thought out, and the one who can better and galvanize on that one. But whatever the case, any process, as I said, metal sharpens metal, improve. The more competitive the process, the better the end product.
I know you have stated that in this particular election, since you're not on the ballot, you're not endorsing anybody.
I have not come to the point of endorsing. I also did it deliberately to maintain, I would say, my neutrality.
Are you neutral?
Yes and no. I am committed to what I believe in. And I honestly believe that what we're bringing forward is the best for Uganda. I may not be in the best position to be able to project it or for it to be reflected in society. So I recognize that the results may not reflect the thought because of there are many factors: access, opportunity, resources, time, and many of those things play a role. But by entry in there and influencing and remaining engaged, you are playing a role in shaping the future which you want. So I've chosen not to endorse on the basis that what I anticipated or what I'd prepared for was an election which would deny the 50+1, but put me in the central position.
You can sway.
I can sway, but my sway is going to be and has always been more on the policy question. So mine is not to force them, whoever, which candidate, to consider me. If we're coming to second round, I'm saying I've got this on education, I've got this on health, I've got this on whatever. So it is the agenda which I want in. The agenda for the people is what I want.
In fact, I want us to just use this small time for the fact that you're not out on the trail, but people are listening and there is internet. Simplify for us that agenda, what you believe this country deserves. If you could simplify ABC, that this is what you stand for, and maybe let people know what they are missing.
It is difficult to simplify. It is something which I can expound on different areas. what I believe is Uganda has greater potential than we realize. And we are very well placed to have a pivotal role in improving lives beyond Uganda. The standard of living of the state of Uganda can greatly improve. We can utilize our resources and opportunities better to lift people to a level where they're better off and they can sustain themselves. So there are many factors at play which can make Uganda do much better than where it is now. And I'd love to see that one coming to be. And how do we achieve it? It is through that basis of politics and give and take. So my position of going, standing there and trying to position yourself where no candidate is likely to get through in the first round. The policy issue is my forte. So it's not so much about the personality or the player, it is what I want seen to be done for the people of Uganda. So if we get to that situation, the issues which I'm raising on education, on health, on livelihoods, on many areas, for a second round, that's what I'm pitching. That becomes central to what those candidates, because if I'm as expected this, I'm going to be the third candidate, I'll not be a candidate. But I'll be driving on that campaign trail that let us address these things which we can address. How can we improve agriculture? How can we improve livelihoods? How can we improve across board? So it will be my agenda which will determine.
People are talking a lot about transition this, transition that.
Transition is important.
What is your reading of that?
Transition is important. Had I been able to achieve the votes which denied the 50+1, I was automatically on the table. I was automatically on the table because by being the one who has created this dynamic, you definitely are pivotal.
I wouldn't discount you just yet.
The intention of removing him from the ballot and pushing whatever is to try to diminish and to remove the influence in that process. And in many cases, they've tried to bring down the influence of personality. Or support the president who's got the infrastructure and bring in power, whatever, support the young people. Mine has to be agenda driven. Do you have an agenda which works for the people of Uganda? Now, if you reach that stage where you don't have a clear winner and my influence is there, you better look at some of the factors which may sway voters to your interest. It should not be me to sway the voters per se. It should be the agenda.
But also that's assuming that the voters are agenda sensitive.
Voters vote on many issues. They vote on many issues. All things. People have different issues. But the issues which touch across board. There are certain things which you reach and you go through it. Right? All of us, most of us go through the issue of school fees. Can it be done better?
Education.
Education is something which doesn't cut across board. Health is going to hit you. Economy hits you. Infrastructure hits you when you're commuting or whatever. How you put food on your table. All of those things hit you. So it's important in the policy question that they are addressed. And if there's a better way, if 3 people are presented and you look like this one has a better thing. And something which I mentioned that manifestos are not copyrighted.
I can pick.
I will not personally, I will not be shy
to share
that if I'm elected and you have a better plan than I do for education,
co-opt me or co-opt my idea.
Yes.
I've been saying the same thing.
I would rather co-opt you with the idea.
Yes.
Because there's something you can bring with the idea. If I cannot co-opt you with the idea, I will still take the idea.
If it works, if it's going to work.
If it's going to work for the people, I'll take it. For me, I have no qualms and I have no scruples on that one. If there's something which will work for the people of Uganda, I'm getting it from you, I'm getting it from whoever I'm getting it from. If it works for the people of Sudan, I'm there.
I'm happy you should say that because I mentioned this to someone that I would love to see a post-election government where the winner sits down and says, Katumba Oye, I liked your idea on housing. Yeah? Come and supervise housing. I might not make you a minister so that you retain your level of independence. But saying, yes, this is a problem, come and lend us your mind on it. Say, Jimmy, I see you're very passionate about economic livelihood. Yeah, come and look at how our money is being spent. Are we getting equity? Are we being too naive to think that this is possible?
Now, let me give you an example of an idea which was UPC's idea. In the 2006 manifestos, UPC presented the issue of the student loan. No other manifesto had it. The UPC manifesto had it. But how it was put in the UPC manifesto and how it was implemented is very different. Student loan is still a student loan. Who is it targeting? In many cases, the student loan today are getting students whose parents are able to pay. Our concept,
it's misused.
Our concept was, if you have a Uganda with ability and has this opportunity but does not have the resource, by investing in this Uganda, you're investing in your future. Investing in capital, human capital development, we look at it as an investment. It's not a cost, it's an investment in the future. Where difference comes is that we need to have a manpower development policy so that we know we're investing in the right personnel at the right time. I'll give another example of how politics influenced some policies. UPE came as a political issue based on the political things on the ground. If I break down UPE at the moment, at the time when it came at a time when under structured adjustment program, many primary teacher colleges were closing. So you are reducing on the available teachers while expanding on the student. There was a mismatch. You did not expand the infrastructure, but you expanded the student. And then you look at topics. A subject which is really diminished, arts. For example, English,
Political education was, I think, scrapped the syllabus.
You imagine as a teacher, you suddenly have a class, maybe 200, 300 students. Can you do comprehension?
Probably not even surface level teaching.
Yes. On subjects which require essays, which require explanation, which require understanding,
Engagement.
multiple choice type questions, which you can now switch, mark, and stuff like that. But how can you get into detail? So the mismatch, you solve the political issue, you solve the election, but you created
a new problem.
A new problem in the education system. A new problem to teacher training and what. Now, before you solve it, you now go through those matters. Had you approached it from my angle, we need to expand
it's holistic.
Let's start with the teachers. Let's do the infrastructure. Then you bring the students.
The curriculum.
Yes. All of it, you do it together. Now, also, priorities. You don't have enough money for everything. Which are the key human resource priorities which Uganda needs now and in the future? At the time of UPE, you need a teacher. Structural adjustment had closed the PTCs. So it made that problem worse than it could have been. That's why different approaches, some of us have different approaches of how you address that. You may jump into it politically, but the consequences.
What makes politics seem like a do or die in Africa or in Uganda? This way, oh yeah. Because what stops someone from listening to you, from giving you a platform, if it's about the people? Why is it so cutthroat? Why is it do or die? Or maybe it is not.
There are multiple interests, and controlling a state, the resources, the influence, and the ability is a game changer in the African context. Political power can make a pauper a billionaire, an influential billionaire overnight. So it's different. In well-established systems, you may find those with capital and resources can ignore the politician.
We always ask this question. It's almost like a debate. Power and money, which one has more influence?
They interact. They interact. Money may have an enduring influence, possibly more than political power. But often the money is acquired through political influence. Even historical money. There's a major bank which its wealth was supposed to have been built in the slave trade.
We shall not name it.
We shall not name it. They got that wealth, but they also had political support, and that wealth has continued to endure for generations. So entry, both sides, all factors play a role. You may not be able to say which one plays more of a role, but it depends on the circumstance. But both play a role. Both play a major role.
You mentioned earlier altruism or general good-heartedness. Is there a space for altruism it might be there in leadership, but is it there in politics?
It is there in politics.
Like working for the people, for the common good.
There are people who do so. There are people who do so, and they've dedicated their lives, and you find them. Some of them may not be direct in the elected politics, but you do find them there. I have got people in my political team who have been working but never seeking work. There are people I know who I can rely on. They'll be there to work, but they're not seeking, to be the one in the center. So you find people with different interests. It's what motivates you. It's what motivates you. Those are the things that keep you going. And different people have different interests.
We came here to see the work that you're doing about rebuilding foundation. Understanding that there were foundations and then they were broken, destroyed, and now you are giving your time, your resources, and focus to that work of rebuilding foundations. But now that I have you, I would be amiss to not ask on behalf of the people about your understanding, your objective understanding, or I want to ask you about Idi Amin, the most probably hated Ugandan leader, and someone who has scarred you personally. But with hindsight, I would like to give you an opportunity to assess him and what you and I and every Ugandan can learn from his good side, and how do we not go back to where he failed, and then do the same for your dad. Because you mentioned earlier that Idi Amin's son has visited you, which was a very good gesture. Because if we're going to rebuild foundations, we have to go back and bridge gaps. for us to move forward. I would like you to objectively talk to us about that man. Because there's a generation right now that is beginning to disbelieve what they were told about him.
Now, from my perspective, first, Amin inherited a very strong economy. He also inherited the third 5-year development plan. There are many things which people attribute and say, Amin did this, Amin did that. But when you look at the holistic third development plan, third 5-year development plan, his implementation is about that. Put together with what was achieved 66 to 71, where we had the peak figure, coffee, cotton, sugar, the industrial performance, education expanded, health expanded. That was to roll on to the next plan. Now, implementation there, you only did 30%. Why? I don't believe somebody who has not been elected can really honestly deliver.
I'd imagine that this person, his will,
The will is there.
but the plan was not his.
One, the plan was not his. Yes, I enter politics. I have clear ideas, but I need the endorsement and approval of the people. And when you have that support, is where the implementation becomes easy and acceptable. When you don't, you are forcing it. And you will have,
And there'll be
repercussions. There'll be repercussions. So it will not flow. It will not flow as smooth. And there'll be pushback. Every time there's pushback, but you have to find ways of getting things to flow. So I don't accept this issue of military people coming to say that they're going to organize things and move whatever. There are things where you need force. But I'll tell you, economy, never force. Right? It is tact, guile, and how to get things, whatever. There's a war economy which works because of the war economy, but you must keep the war for that economy to work. And it has costs, it has flaws and, issues. So, for me, an economy which is working something which is political in nature. And the planning aspect of it, you need those who are committed to the planning, understanding, and the like. That is where it is going to be able to work. And you need to be able to talk.
So what was his strong point?
Parliament
Was not there.
was not there. If you read the Hansard, 60s, 70s, you see the debate, you see the argument. When they talk of issues of prices which are affecting people, you see the nature of debate in Parliament, where people are really debating about how it affects their people, trying to rationalize or try to see how things happen. I don't see so much of that in Amin's time. There was none in Amin's time, and it's somewhat limited today. You don't really have that. You have a dominant government party which is pushing their agenda.
What's the word? It's steamrolling an agenda.
It's steamrolling an agenda which may not necessarily, because acceptance of an idea moves it much faster.
Momentum, yes.
Much more momentum. I think it was last year, I went to Koboko, to where Amin would have been buried.
Do you think there will be a time? I hope there will be a time where he will get there.
To bring the body back, there are issues. Islam, man is buried in Saudi Arabia. Now, where you come from Saudi Arabia to Koboko, there will be some issues.
Well, I hope in our time we'll see.
But
yes.
The interaction I had with Jaffa and the family there is that, yes, whatever has happened, we need to bridge. We need to bridge the gap. And we had a lot of the political and religious leaders with us. So when I invited Jaffa for my father's memorial, he jumped at the chance. And he came, I hosted him. This is part of the bridge.
But have you ever met him as a person?
We met a few times.
No, I'm saying, I mean, when you're a child?
As a child, I met him before, but also I remember after the coup.
You met him after the coup?
We had gone to Kenya. We were deported from Kenya. Taken to Tororo. Now, because of having people on the inside, there was a plan to take us to Lira, but story was we're not going to reach. So somebody in the system, instead of taking us on the route where we're not likely to reach, sent us to citizens.
Like arrest you.
Yes.
Might as well arrest you.
Yes. So we got locked up. Then we were removed.
Who are you with?
My mother and my two brothers were removed, went back home to Kololo, changed, and then went for dinner at Amin's place, which is Prince Charles, just the road above home. And after dinner, and there are photos of that, where there's Amin on the sofa, with my mother and I, and there's one where my brothers were on the floor. I remember that dinner. Amin asked, boys, do you want to go to Tanzania to see your father? My brothers were on the floor watching TV. Said yes. Then Amin turns to my mother and says, Miriam, we do it like this. Either you go and the children remain, or the children go and you remain.
Why?
Leverage. So my mother said, let the children go. So Amin
For you, what did you say?
I didn't say it. I was the youngest at the time. He looks at my mother, laughs, hey, okay. And he walks up. That is now how we're able now to go to Akena. But my mother remained, she escaped late.
How did you assess that yesterday? Do you think he was being magnanimous? Or he was being politically... It was a game.
Mom will always make a decision for the child. It's a normal issue. Mothers, it's a natural issue. No, they always protect the child, do whatever, do things for the child. But also society knows that a child that age
Needs the mother.
needs the mother. Even if you're in a battle with a woman below 8, the woman has to have a problem for you to get custody. Right? Because at age they're expected to be with the mother. Now you're giving a mother a difficult choice. But the choice which is safer for the children is what a mother will always take. So that is what my mother did.
Did you ever meet your dad again? Did they ever talk? Did they ever meet anywhere?
I mean, no.
From where we are standing now, you are friends with his son. People say politics is a life or death. Is it fluidity? And I'm using this even to close this conversation to say, going forward, we're going into an election. There are some families that have been separated because of political sides. You are in a position to speak to the seriousness of politics vis-a-vis the continuation of life.
But if I were to put what I'll say one of my fathers would be answer, he believed in systems. But it's also his strength because he wanted to build systems which would sustainably live. So in his belief in systems, he did not put very high the human weakness.
He assumed that the system would balance out.
The system will work. If there's a problem, go to police. A criminal, go to police. Expecting that the police will function as they are supposed to function in accordance with the law and the procedure. So when you don't put in that human element,
You get surprised.
you get surprised. But if you overemphasize the human element, you overcrowd the system. You never allow the system
to work.
You'll be continuously interfering with the system. So that is now the dilemma. Are you going to be continually interfering with the military, or you're going to let the military work as a system? 1980, because he was out of the loop, 78, 79, he came in with purely the economic program and how to move the party. He came in end of May. The election was beginning of December. How many months is that?
That's like 6.
Now, 6 months. Do you have time to get into other issues? Whatever you do. So he came with that. So other issues were the same. Systems were breaking down. Whatever he was building, particularly now the economic recovery definitely succeeded. How does it compare with today? Today, if I open that one, that might be stop for the next 3 hours.
We'll take that on. But we're going to an election. It's not a do or die, or is it?
For me, it is a do or die in the sense that we're at a critical stage. I had hoped that we'll get a reality check before we go to the next stage. That is why I fought very hard in this one. I fought so hard that to be present, to be in a position where I can articulate, to be in a position where I can shout if I feel something is going wrong, and to try to bring my knowledge and experience and what I can add onto the table. So for me, it has do or die. And looking at the general political climate, intolerance is growing.
Yes, it's very concerning.
Yes. Now, where you still have some voices who try to reach across the aisle, try to think, or try to understand, empathize with different political points of view, where I may not agree with you, but I may respect what you're bringing to the table. That is, disappearing and the like. So, for me, this election is critical on setting us in a trajectory where we can handle. We may not have all the answers, but let us put in place mechanisms whereby we can remain united as we seek the answers.
Remain civil.
Remain civil and remain united.
Because it's one country, it's our country.
I mean, when you hear some of what people say to each other, or at each other, or some of the actions done to one another, it's alarming. It's alarming.
It is concerning. When Mzee Obote came back, this is a question that has always been on my mind. When Mzee Obote came back, of all places, he could have gotten reception. Because now, if you look at UPC's stronghold, it is in Anoa. Maybe specifically here, spreading out. How did he come back to go to the shame? What changed? Do you still have that base?
The base is there, but it's not as pronounced. And there were deliberate targeting of many of the leaders, right, to weaken the base. And where you don't allow the grassroots to renew,
Comes a desert.
very quickly. I'll give you one example. When you do student politics, if you miss 2 years, you're wiped out. Because of
The chance. New
chance.
people coming out as well.
Because the 2 years, the ones who you'll be relying on are going to have pressure. Maybe the exams and whatever, so their involvement is less. So you need to be constantly engaged. Now, there are longer bears cut off the grassroots. Now, if you're not renewing the grassroots, you're not having people articulate, you're not developing into policy, gradually you separate. And that's why UPC became known as the party of the old men, because those are the ones who remained, but there was nothing coming under. There was no route for any build-up to follow through. So those are consequences of the like. As you said, if you remove this, the desert will come. After desertification, you have to find how to plant it back. And it's not as easy. It's always easier to create a desert than it is to create a forest. And faster.